Truck art from Pakistan is renowned to the world for its attraction and unique sense of artistic taste. Pakistani truck art is Pakistan's cultural identity. One look at a truck with artistic work over it, and the first thing which would come to your mind would be Pakistan.
I've been driving truck for the last 5 years. Not only it's my interest and passion, but also is a source of income for my family and I.
We open up the whole body of a truck and piece it down to various parts to get the painting process smoother. Base frame of the truck gets painted first. Then we move on to the rest of the body where we prepare the whole base structure. Once the foundation is all checked, it is sent to the painter. And then after it gets painted, it's further sent to the decoration department. It takes around 2 months to get the procedure completed.
Trucks in Pakistan are decorated with the slogans and pictures all over their bodies from local folklore that gives them a Pakistani look. These slogans are the fortune cookies of Pakistan. After reading them, you have something to ponder over your own life and sometimes about the life around you.
I started working on truck art since 1980s and continued doing it till now. There's a lot of work involved in painting a truck. We start with basic coloring to the blank surface. It takes at least 2 to 4 days on painting a truck. Everything that includes flowery art and bird designs is taken into consideration. We also invest in scenic beauties like Kashmir, Sawat, Khyber, Shahi Mosque Lahore, and anything that comes off beautiful to the general public.
A humorous slogan will redirect the seriousness in your life. A political slogan will make you think of the political landscape in Pakistan. And the poems of Pakistani poets make you contemplate over everything in general.
I've been working as a truck artist for 50 years. I entered this industry in 1968. We start painting a truck once it's all in its functioning state. My trade is calligraphy and paint. I have painted around 1,000 trucks since 1968.
The beautiful and artsy looks of these trucks continue to arrest the attention of any and all bystanders. If you see a truck, chances are that you can spot a decorated crown and garish portraits of flowers, celebrities, Islamic art, snowy Himalayan peaks, animals, amusing poetry, and much more.
I work hard to bring out the best project. This is a proud moment for Pakistan as well.
Sufi saints, spiritual vagabonds, the flying horse, the eagles, the peacock, the falcon, and imagined scenes of paradise are painted side by side popular political figures, military heroes, famous cricketers, showbiz personalities, F-16 jets, and missiles.
The light bulbs are used for decorations and beautification of the truck. During the journey at night, they provide an exuberant view to the bystanders.
Truck art has continued to evolve, now more than ever. It continues to incorporate and fuse modern aesthetic elements and imagery with traditional, spiritual, and folk ones.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to BTV World News. I'm Shahzad Qayyum with the top stories of this hour. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government will rebuild the Hindu temple vandalized and demolished by a mob in Karak. Chief Minister Mahmood Khan said that. Prime Minister Imran Khan inaugurates shelter home at Tarnol in Islamabad. The initiative is one of the major components of PTI-led government's Ehsaas program. Prime Minister Imran Khan says Pakistan is moving in the right direction with the policies aimed at bringing people out of poverty through wealth creation. Pakistan's exports witnessed 18% growth over the previous year. Prime Minister Imran Khan congratulates all exporters on achieving record exports. Pakistan stops issuing manual visas from today. Interior Minister Sheikh Rashid Ahmed says online visa system launched for 191 countries. Addressing a news conference in Peshawar, condemned the burning of Hindu temple in Karak, says such incidents cannot be tolerated. Farmers sit on roads shirtless, sloganeering against the newly introduced farm laws on the outskirts of New Delhi, even as the Indian capital recorded its coldest night of the year. Pakistan Cricket Board announces the annual Cricket Awards 2020. Skipper Babar Azam clinches Most Valuable Cricketer and White Ball Player of the Year awards. Mohammad Rizwan is named Test Cricketer of the Year, while Alia Riaz named as Women Cricketer of the Year. That's all for the moment. For more details and live streaming, log on to our website world.btv.com.pk. You can find us on Facebook page with the name of ETV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldBTV. Thanks a lot for watching, and it's goodbye for now.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The Prime Minister has said that Pakistan is well on its way to becoming a welfare state. He's also said that as far as growth is concerned, we're doing very well. He expects this year 2021 to be the year of growth. However, the assertions of the opposition continue. They maintain issues of price hike, inflation. The PDM today had their meeting and issues of resignation, of course, were discussed, other than, of course, how they plan to proceed. We'll be talking about whether there is agreement on these core issues within the PDM, or whether they are facing certain difficulties as they move into 2021, and what kind of a plan do they have. Of course, they maintain that the resignations will be the last resort, but when, how, is still unclear. We'll be talking about that, and also about the Prime Minister also spoke about NAB. He also spoke about the fact that as far as the corruption is concerned, and of course the fact that even ministers should be investigated by a special court. Other than that, he talked about accountability, which he has always maintained he will not compromise on. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Naseem Siddiqui, who's a senior analyst. Thank you for joining us today. Anwarul Haq Kakar, who's a senator with BAP. Thank you for being with us. And we'll also be joined by Barrister Safiullah Ghori, who is a legal expert. Thank you for being with us. Naseem Saab, let's start off with you. Like I said, the issue of PDM has, the issue of their unity vis-a-vis the resignations, and the fact that the stakes are very different for the two major parties within the PDM has been an issue for a while now. There is a lot of talk about the fact that they will use this option, but it's an atomic bomb, according to Bilawi Bhutto Saab, and of course it's a last resort should be anyway for all political parties, but when and how we don't know, and the issue of resignations is still unclear. The today meeting that was held today, the PDM's meeting, also seems to have been more of the same. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for inviting. First of all, you can see that the parties in PDM, they are polar parts. Right. They just get together because of they want to save their face savings. At the moment, you can see that in Maulana Fazl Rahman party, JUIF, there are some problems in the party itself. He has terminated few of the leaders, and they have done a press conference 2 days ago in Islamabad. So he has got problems in his own party at the moment. Whereas the reason for the resignations, People's Party is totally against that resignations. Mr. Asif Ali Zardari categorically told the party that they are not going for the resignations because they don't want to be out of the game. They want to be in the game, and they have got a provincial assembly at the moment. And also, as far as the elections are concerned, they've clearly now said that the PDM will participate in the by-elections, in the Senate elections also. So isn't that, maybe going against what they've been saying? Exactly. In their, whatever they were doing in the past, they were saying that they will be going for the resignation, definitely, and that will be an atom bomb for the government. Now, first of all, People's Party, they get back from the resignations. Some of the PMLN members whose resignations were reached to Speaker, and then they were called and they said that these are fake resignations. So the resignations has gone far behind. Now all the parties, they are... But the answer of that, the answer that the PMLN leadership gives to that is that they will respond on call, and that they have in possession resignations addressed to the Speaker at this time, and that they will use that option. Whether they use it or not, we'll talk more of that, more on that, and I'm going to go to Anwarul Haq Kakar Sabji. Senator Sahab, what do you feel? Do you think that the movement itself is perhaps losing its force? The momentum that they picked up, if you look at the Gujranwala Jalsa, then we took a hit, I don't think it would be wrong to say, in the Lahore Jalsa. And following that, there seems to be a decline in the fervor, in the way that it's been, the narrative has been taken by the people.
Well, to be honest with you, if you examine the constitution of the PDM, what is actually very interesting to observe the most popular party in terms of polling vote is PMLN.
Right.
Which wants to take lead on so-called the narrative of civilian supremacy and taking on the so-called military establishment and naming few of its important individuals, and they created a sense of, and they wanted to be seen at least as a symbol of resistance with the status quo, with the current arrangement of the government. And the party which is least popular in terms of polls or electoral support, which is JUIF, has been given the lead role in shape of organizational leading the structure of the PVM. Why did it happen? I personally think the issue primarily with them is the accountability onslaught, which might not be justified with the perspective of few, and with some there's a lot support base which is with the PTI. They feel very genuinely that the corruption drive, the accountability drive against these political class should go to a logic conclusion, and that is the reason they are standing behind the Prime Minister Imran Khan. So they were less interested in so-called resisting the system or the so-called powers that be. They were more into chipping the bargains for having some kind of negotiation with the government. And for them, the rightly choice was that the PDM led by JUIF would be able to mobilize the people from madrasa and so on and so forth, and they would be able to exert that kind of a pressure in terms of optics on the government. That is failing actually. That is failing actually. What you were referring to from their journey from Gujranwala to Karachi, from Karachi to Quetta, and then Multan, which ended up in via Peshawar, ended up in Lahore. Lahore was the anticlimax. Gujranwala, if you put it as a climax of PDM, which they did emerge, someone who is seriously challenging the status quo, has gone into an anticlimax within 2 months in Lahore. And the reason being, I feel, is people do not buy this leadership as credible. If they thought that they are credible voices for the so-called civilian supremacy, if they are credible in terms of reversing the economic woes this country is facing, or even in terms of inflation, people are bothered, people are pushed, people are they are affected by inflation. There is no doubt about that. But that is not translating into the support of PTM. That is there for the criticism of PTI or the current government, but still people, I think so, feel that out of that criticism, PTI should change its posture towards the governance. They should manage the inflation.
Saying, let me come back to you. So if I'm right, you're saying that there is criticism of the government, but that is not necessarily translating into support for the PTI.
That's what exactly I'm saying.
Right. Okay. I will come back to you. I think that's a fair point. I'm going to go to Barrister Safiullah Ghori. Barrister Saab, do you agree with that? I think that Senator Saab raises a fair point when he says that there is criticism of the government. We talk about inflation, we talk about price hike, we talk about all those things, and he is saying, and the government has also said that perhaps the people are taking a hit, but that is not perhaps yielding anything for the PDM. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, Mahrukh. I think there is no doubt about the fact that the PDM, I feel, has failed to galvanize itself properly. And a large part of the problem that I see is by the way PDM is organized and the personal interest that parties and the people leading PDM have. So, for instance, I think it's very pertinent to mention a slight history of PDM at this stage to try and sort of understand where I'm coming from. So PDM right now is an absolute necessity for the opposition because they've already lost in Gilgit-Baltistan. They're very likely to lose in AGK, and they'll obviously, if they do not resign now, they will be losing from the Senate as well, and end up giving PTI a super majority that it wants to have any type of legislation that it so wishes to have. But if we go back a little bit to see what PDM has been doing right now, there is a lot of talk about how People's Party is somersaulting and how People's Party is going back. But this is not the first time. So we, for instance, have this whole memory of the time that People's Party supported PTI, and when PML Nawaz tried to remove the chairman, Sadiq Sanjrani, back then. So party came to PTI support and helped them foil PMLN's effort. And then, if you remember, PMLN and People's Party both egged on Maulana Fazlur Rahman to come and have a massive jalsa in Islamabad, and then at the very last moment backed up. So what we see, the reason why they are backing out, the reason why so many of these things have happened is because they were trying to score cookie points for themselves. Because at that point of time, what was important to them was, for instance, for Nawaz Sharif, it was more important for him to get out of jail free card and go straight to London. And also for the former President Zardari,
so you're saying that people are not, what Senator Anwarul Haqqaqat Saab was also saying, that people are not buying what the leadership of the PMLN is saying vis-a-vis, and also the fact that the honesty factor and the reliability factor is perhaps not there anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Mahrukh, I think it's very important because there are tremendous failures of this government, unlimited failures. And whenever I listen to the jalsas and whenever I listen to speeches, they go on about the witch hunt that is taking place, but do not talk about the woes of the common man. And that is why the common man cannot relate to them. Because if they were to talk about how the present government has not built hospitals, how it has not built schools, how it has not built a single one of the 300 dams that it had to make, how
they sort of picked on that and they tried to manage, with the Mehngai March, what the PMLN was calling the Mehngai March, with Maryam Nawaz Saiba going to, she said she would go to post Larkana Jalsa. Before that also, she went to Multan, if I'm not wrong, she's planning on going to Bahawalpur, I'm not sure when or how, if that is happening. But do you think that they picked up on that and they want to now, diversify their slogan they have tried to, from vote ko izzat do to Mehngai to inflation, all of that?
Agreed. They are coming to it now, but they have missed out on the most important opportunities. Like, for instance, if I was in PDM, I would not stop talking about the recent 200 billion rupees loss that the government has caused the exchequer of Pakistan by not getting LNG at the right time. This was a massive failure of the government, extreme incompetence, and yet we see nothing from the opposition being spoken about. Because once again, and this, as a common man, the impression that we then get is that maybe because they have been involved in previous corruptions in such cases, that's why they don't want to stroke the bees hive and try and sort of get more, make more of an issue out of it, make more further cases out of it, so that things don't go and fall back on their previous governments. But as you said, yes, I do think that the government has started utilizing at least some of the right tactics, but they're taking too much time, and I feel that the time that they have now is, I think, maybe until 15th February when the Senate elections will take place. And so until then, if they are unable to find out, in fact, I think right now you're probably aware there is a meeting going on in Jati Umrah. So I think a lot hinges on today's meeting. And we'll be waiting for it to conclude, and we'll find out what direction PTM is taking.
Do you agree with that? Do you think that this movement, if it doesn't, follow the course that they've set, which is, even now unclear, if they don't come up with a definite course, a definite timeline, a definite way forward, will lose further ground?
Definitely, the PDM is not addressing the pain of the people of Pakistan at the moment. They are just targeting Prime Minister Imran Khan directly. So that's not, people are not buying that agenda at the moment.
I'm confused about that. I mean, I think that, isn't it right that they've tried to bring all of that into the ambit? First it was just vote ko izzat do, against the military, against the, well, not military but establishment, all of that. And then they tried to diversify and bring in the issue of price hike, inflation. But even that hasn't found the kind of voice, the kind of support that they were perhaps expecting.
Actually, the problem of people of Pakistan is price hike at the moment, but they are not addressing that at the moment. They are just going for the personal attacks on the Prime Minister. And the political dynamics in Pakistan have been changed. You have seen that in these political gatherings, there used to be the political workers and the public as well. So they are just, at the moment, they are just getting the political workers. The poor people, they are getting 12,000 rupees per month from the SAS program. And billions of rupees has been spent and given to the poor people of this Pakistan. So the people are not coming and not listening to the PDM people because they have got their own agendas and they are not ready to be on one agenda at the moment, like they were saying that all the parties will be resigning and there will be a tough time for the government, and they have backed up from that one as well. So they are confused. So people are seeing that they all are confused at the moment and they are not doing anything or bringing anything for the benefit of the people of Pakistan. That's why, as Senator Saab said, that the Gujranwala Jalsa, it was a climax. And anti-climax in the Lahore Jalsa, it was totally a failure. I was an eyewitness and I have seen many gatherings, political gatherings in Lahore and especially at Naware, Pakistan. So it was totally a flop show. And after that one, you have seen that in some of the Jalsas, Maulana Fazl Rahman was not in Larkana, then Bilal Bhutto was not in Mardan Jalsa, that he was not available for today's meeting in Raivin as well. So you can see that there is mistrust in the internal parties of the PDM as well. So that's why they are not succeeding and they are not convincing the people to come into their gatherings.
Right. Senator Saab, do you think it's also because of the fact that Mian Nawaz Sharif Saab is not here? He is not. He hasn't said that he's planning on returning soon. Of course, there's the issue of his health, which the opposition keeps on saying is, when he gets better, he will come. Yet he continues to address these rallies, the jalsas from London. And on the other hand, there is this distrust that people are, of course, now at that point where of course our voters can think for themselves. I don't think it would be right to suppose that they don't know better. The fact that he's sitting outside and making these speeches against the military.
Mahrukh, whenever you take a position in politics, you have to come out of self-delusion. I mean, if people of their own cadre from PMLN, they were equating Mian Nawaz Sharif with Imam Khomeini and his revolution of Iran post-1979, without realizing that there were strong, profound rural bases in Iran which catered for and it craved for a situation to bring in a revolution in the chauvinistic tendencies of Shah at the time. They're not preparing for French Revolution either. And in order to claim the throne, the Caesar has to be in the midst of the soldiers. If Caesar is out, the soldiers wouldn't get any inspiration. There is no doubt about that.
But you think, okay, Caesar is not there, but I mean, we have to give them the due. Maryam Nawaz Sahib is definitely right in the thick of things. She's, forging on ahead. Her speeches are as fiery as ever. And she has said that, the proof of her father's sincerity lies in the fact that she's herself here.
Well, let's focus on Maryam also. A lot of people are calling her that she is the fast power of PDM. I commented to one of my colleague, a friend also, that what required in this system is an all-rounder rather than a fast bowler. She might be a fast bowler, but she is not an all-rounder who could be seriously considered to become the chief executive of this country. What qualifications? To be honest with you, she has few fiery speeches. If the people of Pakistan have agreed to hand over this country to someone who can make fiery speeches, God help us. In terms of governance, if you, as I was referring to, we are not heading towards French Revolution. I do not expect from this leadership. But in the current arrangement of the parliamentary system of the government, you have to wait for 2023 to poll. And if in 2023, Maryam Nawaz, she wants to present herself who can lead this nation of 2200 million people. She has to come out in a very mature and profound manner and present herself to the people of Pakistan that she's capable enough to lead this country as the chief executive.
Right.
Is she doing the job? My answer is no.
Right, I will come back to you. I'm going to go to Pastor Safiullah. Safiullah, do you agree with this? Do you think that, of course, I mean, if we look at the qualifications of our leaders and the fact that, who here has been qualified to lead Pakistan, then, unfortunately, if you look back at history, we don't really, get the kind of answer one would perhaps like. But at the same time, when you look at the popularity of it, my question is, why is even if she is, or Bilawal Bhutto Zardari also, who are the next generation of the major political parties in opposition at this time, are they failing to get the kind of response that they could have gotten, perhaps?
Excellent question, Mahrukh. So, just to begin with, I have tremendous respect for Mahrukh Haksab, but I'll disagree respectfully here. I don't think that a person who makes fiery speeches is somebody who is not capable of becoming the president or the prime minister of Pakistan. And we have the example of Imran Khan, whose sole qualification is that he makes very fiery speeches. I think those are the similar things that got him into the parliament. But regardless, I mean, leaving Imran Khan aside,
not just fire. Right, okay.
This is what I said,
that's your opinion, okay.
Imran Khan just fiery speeches and nothing else. But regardless, leaving aside Imran Khan's qualifications, I think it's less about the effort that is being put in by the new generation leaders, namely Bilawal and Mariam, than the overall structure of politics itself. So I'll bring your attention to a couple of things that I feel have damaged these political parties and their efforts to try and reconcile with matters tremendously. So, for instance, one of the basic things that PM Nawaz has been consistently saying is that they have now an anti-establishment stance. And this, whether for right or wrong, the fact that Nawaz Sharif took to the stage and called out some generals, not army as an institution, but called out some generals, started a debate within Pakistan and started a new ideology. And so a lot of people started liking it. And so as people started liking it, came the rise of Mariam. And also came the rise of Bilawal to a degree, because people were thinking that they do not want what they consider to be a selected government. They wanted an elected government. But yet, in the midst of all of this, suddenly we hear news of, let's say, Sheikh Rashid, who comes out and says that there were meetings held regarding the Gilgit-Baltistan issue and the Gilgit-Baltistan elections of Shehbaz Sharif and Bilawal with generals of the army. And I think statements like these that were not then rebutted by the parties led to tremendous distrust between the people, because there was a whole cadre of people thinking that this is it. This is the kind of support that they wanted, and this is the kind of ideology that they wanted to follow. Pakistan that is free from all external influences, free from third-party actors. And this was not the only thing that happened. Like, for instance, recently when we have yet another example of when the chairman ISPR, the chief of ISPR, came forward and said that Zubair Umar came to meet him. And Zubair Umar, a very senior leader of PMLN, could not defend himself. He consistently kept saying that, oh, he was there for a family dinner or whatever. But the ISPR denied all of that. And the ISPR stated that he came...
You are saying that they've lost their credibility.
I feel that because of behavior like this, of course, they lose their credibility. And when senior leaders like Zubair Umar, like Shehbaz Sharif, when they go and they try and shake hands with the military behind the curtains, then it has a direct impact on the efforts that are being conducted by the young leaders that we speak of, by Bilawal and by Mariam Nawaz and what have you. And so I feel this is what the real problem is. This is one of the reasons why this PDM and this whole idea is not picking up, because they are not based on a real ideology, Mahrukh. What they are based on to date is personal agendas, personal vendettas, things that an individual wants. Even if they manage to get a concession, it's always for a singular person. And for instance, I'll just give you one last example. Everything that happened, everything that this government has been saying, or what the opposition has been saying, suddenly they come around, and when it comes to the issue of the army chief's extension, we see that all parties were very, very compliant. All the parties were on the same page. There was absolutely no ruckus in the parliament, no problems anywhere at all. So when the people see all of this, when the people realize that the
I just wanted to add, look, when I was making a comparison of the fiery speeches which he correlated with fiery speeches of Mr. Imran Khan, but they're apples and oranges. Why I'm saying so? When Maryam Nawaz is making a fiery speech, there is an image of Evenfield Apartments at the back of her fiery speech. And when Imran Khan was making a fiery speech, there was Namal and there was Shaukat Khanum at his back. So in terms of public perception, in terms of impact, it is altogether different. It's not what you utter, what you say. It's how you're being perceived. You may criticize Imran Khan for 1,000 reasons. But his credibility as an honest guy has always been there, it has remained, and it has made him possible to come to the position where he is today. He was a commoner, a lower middle or middle class person of this country, and the two major dynasties, political dynasties of this country has been successfully challenged by him and ousted from the power politics, and he's maintaining his position as the Prime Minister of this country. This is no less than a miracle. And behind that miracle, again I would emphasize, it is the waves, the credibility, the sense of being honesty which Imran carried with himself, which he marketed well, which he sold it out to the public or the people of Pakistan. They're a staunch supporter, maybe even criticizing today him for his style of governance. But still they are not questioning him on his issue of
You're saying
credibility.
That his credibility, his honesty is very much there.
It carries value. It carries political value.
Whereas,
He has translated it into a political capital.
Whereas if we talk about Maryam Nawaz, or we
They have
talk
got
about
a checkered history, both of them.
They both, they have a lot of
I mean,
baggage.
one has they have baggage. One has the Surrey's image behind his back, and the other has the Evenfield behind her back. So common man is not that unintelligent. They can judge.
I would rather say that these Surrey Mahal and these Evenfields are very small things. Now in their baggage they have got a lot of these fake accounts. You have seen that billions of rupees have been transferred in Sindh as well, which is on the part of the Wali Sahib, and you have seen that Shahbaz Sharif and Hamdan Shahbaz, they are facing the fake accounts and TT accounts cases as well. So these are bigger baggages than these Surrey Mahal and Evenfield looks like. So they don't have anything to cater with them and to convince the people. Whereas you can see that Imran Khan, Prime Minister Imran Khan, he is working so hard. Whatever, the price hike is the main problem at the moment, the joblessness, but the COVID has contributed a lot in these things all over the world. But when you see Prime Minister Imran Khan, he is working very hard. He is doing cabinet meetings every week. That's, I think, is a remarkable thing which the previous Prime Minister, we haven't seen that they have cabinet meetings. So he is working very hard. So people trust him. He is on his honesty as well. So that's why Maryam Nawaz and
the Prime Minister said today that when he spoke, he said that it doesn't matter how many times he shuffles his parliament, his cabinet, if it ends up the government ends up performing by the end of its 5 years. So, and the fact that he came out and he admitted candidly that when he came into the government came in, there were a lot of issues and they hadn't perhaps anticipated the degree to which the problems were and how they were. And today he said that perhaps a 6-week time should be given to each government to actually to train them or learn whatever which is again something that has never happened in Pakistan, because we've only really seen two political parties coming and going. But the point is, I'm going to go to Safiullah Ghori Sabji. So Safiullah, then what about if you look at Shahbaz Sharif? Do you think that there is a chance that perhaps he's he's at this time in jail and he is not in the thick of it, so to speak, the way Maryam Nawaz is? Do you think that there is a chance that he can perhaps emerge as the actual as a leader who can get that kind of support that maybe from the Maryam Nawaz hasn't been able to do in the PMLN, from people, I mean not within the PMLN.
But realistically speaking, now I think what was said a little while ago was very relevant. I don't believe that Shehbaz Sharif has a chance because of the perception that Shehbaz Sharif carries, perception of him being a shrewd man, sometimes perceptions of being evil, whatever it may be.
But by that argument, then aren't you essentially saying that the PMLN and the PPP are out of politics?
That's of course, and we're consistently saying that. We're consistently saying that PDM is failing because of the issues of perception. Now, what was said a little while ago was very relevant. That when people or when anyone sees Imran Khan, they do not see his 300 canal Banigala home, which is probably more in value than the Evanfield apartments. What they see is a man who is purportedly honest and purportedly very hardworking. And they don't see other people for the kind of work that they have done. Instead, they see Saray palaces and they see other things. They like the gentleman Naseem Saab just mentioned, that when they think of other people, they start thinking about the countless fake accounts cases. But when they look at PTI, they do not see the BRT crisis, they do not see the LNG crisis, they do not see the sugar crisis, the wheat crisis, the PIA crisis, the gas crisis that is taking place, the corona crisis, and the tremendous rise in medicines. They don't see the inflation and the fact that 10 million new people have been unemployed. And so all of this comes down to one thing, Mahrukh. There's only one secret to all of this success, and that secret is money. If you throw money at anything, you will start to shine. PTI in all its elections has outspent all other parties. In fact, it has spent twice the money that PML Nawaz spent on elections. And they hired the best public management teams. They had amazing social media teams.
No, but there has been an issue. There's no denying that PTI itself has also faced issues within its team. Hence the reshuffle of the cabinet again and again. From the portfolios have been taken, given, changed all the time. So to say that they've had the best team and that has been responsible for their credibility.
No, Mahrukh, I did not say they had the best team. I said they had the best media team. They had the best marketing team. Teams that were hiding the facts, the many failures of PTI and highlighting their many successes. So, for instance, we have, for instance, PTI having taken over the countless policies of PML Nawaz. But those countless policies of PML Nawaz that were carried out successfully are now being portrayed as PTI successes and not PML Nawaz successes. And this portrayal in media, this portrayal in newspapers and online, all of this portrayal is done through money, by spending lots of money, giving money to Google, giving money to Facebook, making all of these accounts and social media management, and consistently having a lot of journalists on your payroll. And so this is something that PTI has done very successfully. I have just stated a little while ago that PTI spent twice as much as PML Nawaz on its election campaign, twice as much. And this is
I will come back to you. Let me go to Senator Anwarul Haq Sabji. Senator Sab, do you agree? Do you think that it's about spending, it's about the media team, it's about the way that they've been made to look in the perception of it? Do you agree with that?
I mean, as far as the investment is concerned, I'm not privy to that figure, whether the PMLN has spent more or PTI has spent more. But as far as the media management is concerned, be it in the digital space or be it in the electronic media or print media, it is the legitimate right of any political party to present itself, portray itself, project itself, whatever content, whatever substance they are claiming to represent. So I don't see any foul play over here. The issue is if there are accusations on the side of PMLN and their allies that they've been funding privately the anchor persons, they're trying to woo them by bringing them on the personal payrolls. I do not see that kind of accusations on PTI. And if they have done it on an organized electoral campaign, that is perfectly legitimate.
As far as the opposition is concerned, of course, according to them, there's a different reason for the way that the PTI is, and it's not performance, it's the support that they're getting from somewhere else.
Well, this is again a very interesting argument. that they are getting support from somewhere else, and then that somewhere else is primarily insinuated towards Pakistan's military. Look, according to 1973 Constitution, the chief executive of the country, any order made by him, all the organs of the state are supposed to support him. And if the organs of the state are supporting him, they are making a complaint. And prior to this arrangement, they were always complaining that this organ of the state is not supporting the chief executive. So this is the irony of the situation. Ironically, what they are actually saying is exactly constitutional, legal, ethical. What's wrong with the military that they would not listen and support any elected prime minister of this country?
But don't you think that, listening to an elected prime minister, but don't you think that the establishment, whether that, I don't want to go into the debate of whether that is responsible or not, we don't know. But it is an unfortunate reality of our country, isn't that true?
Well, we are a transitional democracy. If you have asked me, or can I?
Please, I will go to Naseem.
Okay. Look, we are a transitional democracy. Transitional democracy is being taught as a subject in the multiple universities of throughout the planet. We are not a settled democracy. And in this transition of democracy, we are heading towards a system or a place where all the institutions will go back to their prescribed settled positions. But it is a process which will evolve.
Do you think that the process will be helped by the PDM?
No, I think so it will be reversed. Not at all. Because PDM, you can see that the president of PDM is the person who has lost the elections. So people are not going to listen to the people who already lost elections at the moment.
But do you think that it's because, the way that the establishment is being discussed, it has never been discussed before? Do you think that it will perhaps change the face of our politics?
No, not at all. You can see that people of Pakistan, they love our army a lot. We have seen that our army has won few of the wars as well, and especially the war of terror. So that's why if somebody is going against the army, people don't like that one. So that's why you have seen that in the gatherings of PDM, people are not coming out that much, because the idea you can say that Nawaz Sharif has adopted against the chief of the army staff and the other people as well. So this establishment is not Indian establishment or not from some other company. This is Pakistan establishment.
So you're saying that it's perhaps a wrong move or the wrong move by the opposition to bring that narrative into it?
To be honest with you, in my opinion, this was politically a suicidal attempt which they did.
Exactly.
Okay.
Why I am saying so, when you name the head of an institution, a response or a negative response, emotional response do generate within the whole of the institution. It is not about the individual. It is rank and file, the Sipahi who gets martyred at the border, a Sipahi who gets martyred in Balochistan, a Sipahi who gets martyred in Waziristan. He feels the pain when his head, when his chief is being publicly maligned. And they see, on the other hand, these politicians, particularly on the platform of the PDM, who have got a very strong perception of the financial mismanagement of a dacoit or a looter. There is a very strong resentment within the rank and file when you do this.
Right, okay. Safullah, do you agree? As far as the narrative is concerned, do you think, let's move on from the narrative, do you think that, what is the way forward for the PDM? Do you think if they come and, come to Islamabad, it will perhaps have an effect on the government? Even if we don't talk about the resignations, we don't know how much of a possibility that is at this time.
Right. So, Mahrukh, I think we can be fairly certain when we say that the PDM, when they say things like, you have until the end of January to turn over your resignations, that is nonsense. That's not going to happen. Even if they manage to come to the capital in great numbers, they will not be able to uproot the government. I think PTI itself, when it came to Islamabad in massive forces, was unable to do that. So I think we have a fledgling democracy now. This is not going to happen. Any demands by PDM...
And post the Senate elections, it is expected that the scenario will change in favor of the government, more so.
Of course. And post the Senate elections, the government will have a super majority. The government will be able to steamroll any legislation that it so wants, and will be able to arm twist the opposition into agreeing to anything that it so wishes to agree them to. So that's obviously a problem. That is one of the reasons why I feel like, as a patriotic Pakistani, and I don't support PDM. I've been on your show for the last 3-4 years. You know how outspoken I have been against all of these political parties. But the fact remains that we need to support a healthy opposition right now. Supermajority of any government is always a bad thing for any democracy. This is what happened when Nawaz Sharif had complete power in 1997, and we know how that turned out for the country and for Nawaz Sharif himself. And so if PTI were to be given similar powers, if there was to be a crumbled up opposition without any teeth, then PTI too would do something similar, because as you know, there's an old legal adage that says that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolute. And so that's what we have to prevent under all circumstances. We have to prevent absolute power.
Or if you look at the flip side, Safina, if you look at the flip side, then perhaps it will give the government the room to make all the, make good on all the reforms that they've been saying that they want to do. And they've been saying that they haven't been able to do because of the failure of the opposition to cooperate.
That's a really good question, and I think that's regardless. So, Anwar Saab is with me. The PTI has been unable to keep even its allies with them. Akhtar Ming as an example, PNP. I don't think PTI intends to make any reforms, because if it intended to make those reforms, they would have at least had bills in the parliament. We don't even see bills in the parliament. We don't see any effort that is made. And then, if effort were to be made, bills were to be blocked by the opposition, then the PTI would be fully in its right to say that the opposition is playing a negative role. But the fact remains that they're not doing what they're doing. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's the development on that end.
Do you think that, the post-Senate elections, the scenario will change in favor of the government?
Well, of course it will.
Right.
The issue is post-March, in which a reasonable majority of the government and its allies would be there in the upper house. That would be the time for them to do whatever is scant in terms of legislation. That would be the time for them to manage the inflation. That would be the time to recover economically further this country. And they would go in the mode of elections post-2021. My sincere advice to anyone would be, as a political activist, as a citizen of this country, that post-March everyone should start thinking that how they will be preparing for election 2023. And that is the end of the story. Nothing's going to happen. Things will move in a relatively normal direction. Pakistan is a very important country in this region. No one regionally or globally can afford a politically unstable Pakistan. Everyone does need, if you look at the situation in Afghanistan, what is happening in Iran, vis-a-vis Chinese-Indian standoff, anywhere. So you do require a politically stable, nuclearly equipped Pakistan who can play a responsible role at a global stage and a regional stage.
Ji, Naseem Saab, your quick comments.
Yeah, definitely. Pakistan is playing a vital role for the peace in Afghanistan at the moment, and that peace will be for the region. So I agree with Senator Saab that the Pakistan has got a lot of importance. If Pakistan is stable, politically stable, then it would be good for the region at the moment. So definitely after March, the government will be in good power.
So basically you're saying that the opposition can do what they want, but they should, sit it out till, this government's term, criticize it, but come to terms with the fact that they will complete that.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no denying that. Gee, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us today, Naseem Siddiqui Saab, Anwarul Haq Kakar Saab, Basis Safiullah Ghori. Thank you for joining us today. One hopes that the country will enjoy political stability, because certainly that is the way forward for Pakistan. One hopes that the opposition will realize that each government should be allowed to complete its term. The criticism, of course, the role that the opposition can play and should play is one of a responsibility exercised with caution, and to assist the government in perhaps performing better. Let's hope that the opposition can do that. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.